Hi everyone, I decided to create a plugin for frequency separation and to record a video about it. Let's start with the definitions using the fence as an illustration. So, what is frequency? Fences can be frequent and dispersed. Frequency is the number of occurrences of a repeating event per interval. In sound, for example, frequency would be the number of fluctuations per second. In space, it can be the number of fence pickets per 1 meter. In photography, it could have been a pixel, but it is impossible to place anything repeating inside of it. So it is more convenient to use the reciprocal value, which is a period. The higher the frequency is, the smaller the period is. In other words, the more frequent a fence is, the higher the frequency is and the fewer pixels there are between the pickets. Besides, most things do not consist of only one frequency. Even the fence consists of 2 frequencies. The posts are far apart from each other, which means they have low frequency. Meanwhile, the pickets occur more frequently, which means their frequency is higher. Sometimes it is very handy to work with different frequencies separately, to separate low frequency from high frequency. This is exactly what frequency separation means. People have been using frequencies for a better perception. And if the frequency of light and sound has been studied pretty well, the things with frequency and images are a little more complicated. With the development of neural networks, it turned out that those networks see things in a similar way the human eye does. Apparently, the scale is a huge factor in the way humans perceive things, which means we perceive things at different frequencies. It can be seen in retouching. If you retouch an image for a long time without changing its scale and then zoom out, you will see the defects that you didn't notice before. In other words, you have been editing the image using one frequency while other frequencies were out of your sight. This is why artists step back while painting and retouchers zoom in and out while editing images. Our eyes pick up different information at different frequencies. Jean-Baptiste Joseph Fourier, a French mathematician, introduced the concept of decomposing signals into frequencies, which works perfectly for sound but hasn't been implemented in photography. However, there are simpler ways to control the balance of frequencies, using filters and equalization in sound and blurring in photography. Meanwhile, in real life, a person can, for example, take off glasses to stop seeing small details. Thus, this person will only see the low-frequency part of information. In order to get the high-frequency information, you need to extract the low-frequency part from the original information. Here, I have a sound and a diagram that has easily distinctive low and high frequencies. Low frequency is a big wave and distinctive circles on the photo, meaning high frequency is random fluctuations of the sounds and a noise. I will use the sound equalizer to repeat the same actions in the image equalizer so that you can see how it is exactly the same. Pretty much everyone has used sound equalizers. They are everywhere. Meanwhile, photographers don't have the luxury of too many similar tools in photography. So I decided to fix this and design an equalizer for images. But first, let's take a look at what Photoshop has to offer. There's a Gaussian blur in Photoshop that filters out high frequency and only keeps low frequency in. The filter that suppresses high frequency is called low pass, which means it only passes low frequency. Also, there's another filter. This is just a high pass filter called high pass because it passes high frequency. And this is the only frequency separation filter in Photoshop. But what about band pass and band rejection filters? It sounds mind-bending, but it turns out that the inverted high-pass retouching technique, as well as many other plugins for skin retouching, is a band stop filter, band reject. You can come across all these filters in different plugins. They all have all sorts of artsy names, but in fact serve a specific purpose. I decided to design an equalizer that would combine all these tools. Let's take a look at how it works and what it does. All of you have seen a graphic equalizer before. On tape recorders, those normally have 3 bands: low, medium, and high frequencies. Professional equalizers have more bands, 10, for example, like this one, or even 31, like here. It has so many of those because it is designed to pick up fixed frequencies. For example, if you are looking for 400 Hz, you won't be able to catch that with those two equalizers. Thus, bigger equalizers give you better precision. In order to solve this problem without creating a monster with too many sliders, parametric equalizers were invented. With those kinds of equalizers, you can not only change the gain but also smoothly travel from one frequency to another. No need to have dozens of sliders for all possible frequencies. You can even select a bandwidth. However, there's a different issue with those equalizers. It is hard to understand how those knobs change the spectrum. Finally, with the development of digital technology, a perfect equalizer was invented. Parametric equalizer allows you to control the audio frequency by dragging a curve just like in Photoshop. Low frequencies, bass, are on the left and high frequencies are on the right. The horizontal scale is marked in hertz from left to right. In the image equalizer, the frequencies are placed in the same way. The low ones are on the left for bigger objects, and the high ones for small details, texture, and sharp edges are on the right. However, here the scale is not in hertz but in pixels as in the blur radius. The big numbers are on the left and the small ones are on the right. And the vertical scale is similar to the one in sound equalizer. If I drag the point up above the middle, I increase the amplitude of the band. If I drag it down, I decrease it. For convenience, I added the buttons that all musicians are familiar with: mute and solo. Mute drops the bar of the bandwidth to the bottom, and solo turns off all other bands besides the selected one. This is helpful when I want to check every frequency one by one. Take a look at how traditional photo effects look on the equalizer. Let's start with sharpness. In order to increase sharpness, you can just raise the bar for high frequency. You can also control radius here. In order to imitate soft focus, you can decrease middle and high frequencies. But not entirely, otherwise you will lose the details. To add texture, just like with the Clarity tool in Lightroom, you can increase middle frequency. You can change the bandwidth to control the details. If you need to smooth out the skin, you can use the so-called inverted high-pass technique by decreasing the middle frequency. In order to explain this in terms of Photoshop, I will use this example in detail. To smooth out the skin, first of all, you need to apply frequency separation. The high frequency is the texture of the skin that you need to keep. The low frequency is the skin defects that you want to get rid of. For now, I will turn off the high frequencies so that I only work with the layer of the low frequencies. After that, some people smooth out the low frequency layer using Mixer Brush tool, some blur it. In both cases, this removes the high frequencies from the low frequency layer. But since we don't have any high frequencies left anyway, let's increase the radius of the blur and thus remove the middle frequencies. We can play with the radius to make just the skin unevenness go away. Now I will put the high frequency back and let's see what happens. Before, after. So now we see that the technique of smoothing out is equal to removing of the middle frequencies from an image. And if in addition you increase sharpness, you will get the rock preset on the equalizer. Of course, you shouldn't apply this effect to the entire photo, only to the areas of the skin that need to be evened out. Otherwise, the frequency separation blurs edges and creates halo. And how to deal with that is a whole new story for a separate video. I hope this video was helpful and shed some light on frequency separation. Good luck and have fun experimenting. Bye.